Columbus sails across the Atlantic. Stories of fabulous kingdoms and wealth in Asia captured the imagination of Christopher Columbus, a sailor from Genoa, Italy. Columbus was convinced that he could reach Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic. The journey begins. Columbus asked King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to pay for an expedition or trip across the Atlantic. He promised them great riches, money, new territory, new land, and Catholic converts. It took the it took Columbus several years to convince the king and queen, but they finally agreed to help finance the journey. Ferdinand and Isabella ordered Columbus to bring back any items of value and to claim for Spain any lands he explored. On August 3rd, 1492, Columbus's three ships set sail. The Nina and the Pinta were both caravels. Columbus sailed in the larger ship, the Santa Maria. The ships carried about 90 sailors and a year's worth of supplies. They made a stop in the Canary Islands, and then on September 6th, they resumed their journey. Soon, they passed the limits of Columbus's maps and sailed into uncharted seas. After more than a month with no sight of land, the crew grew restless. Soon the crew saw signs of land, birds and floating tree branches. Columbus promised a reward to him who first sang out that he saw land. On October 12th, 1492, a lookout cried, "Land! Land!" ending the long journey from the Canary Islands. The ships landed on an island in the Bahamas. Columbus thought he had found a new route to Asia. Instead, he had reached another continent that was unknown to him. Columbus called the island San Salvador, which meant Holy Savior. Columbus also visited another island he called Hispaniola. There he met the Taino. At that time, Europeans called Asia the Indies. So Columbus, believing he was in Asia, called these Native American people Indians. The Taino lived in small farming communities. In his journal, Columbus wrote that the Taino were so generous that no one would believe it who has not seen it. However, Columbus and his crew were not interested in the Taino culture, but in gold. After 3 months of exploring, looking for gold, and collecting exotic plants and animals, Columbus returned to Spain. Columbus made three more journeys to the Americas during his lifetime. In 1504, he returned to Spain in poor health. Columbus died 2 years later, still believing that he had reached Asia. Impact of Columbus's voyages. The voyages of Columbus changed the way Europeans thought of the world and their place in it. A new era of interaction between Europe and the Americas had begun. Columbus's discovery also created conflict between European countries. Both Spain and Portugal wanted to add these lands to their growing empires. In 1493, Pope Alexander VI, originally from Spain, issued a decree that drew a new boundary for Spain and Portugal.